watching and listening to Conscious Evolution Media, shifting global consciousness at consciousevolutionmedia.com.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Kids Talk Foundation, a global nonprofit organization providing youth advocacy, television programming, and training services in the United States, along with comprehensive medical and educational services for the developing world, most recently in Kenya, Africa, where Kids Talk Foundation provides a feeding program, medical care, and educational services to over 1,300 young people each day. Please help our youth and place your donation. Go to www.kidstalk.org.
You can hear shows from Real Coaching Radio TV network while on the go with Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher is a free news and talk mobile app available for your smartphones, smart TVs, and cars. And when you download Stitcher to hear shows from Real Coaching Radio TV network, you have a chance to win some money. Downloading is quick and easy. Just find Stitcher in the App Store. Download it. It's free and just takes a few seconds. Then, during registration, hit the promo code box and enter RCRN to get automatically entered to win $100. The latest episode of the shows will be waiting for you in your favorites. You'll get access to lots of other amazing shows too. Always available to you on demand. No syncing. It's Stitcher Smart Radio. Don't forget to enter promo code RCRN when you register at www.stitcher.com/RCRN.
Today's man needs to be whole, more than just providing financial security for their relationships and families. Join us as we explore the social conditioning that has and is systematically disempowering men. By becoming awake and aware, we can reverse that conditioning, especially for the boys. Here are your hosts of the Radical Man Internet TV show, Dr. Grant Crewley, Sensei, and Coach Steve Todd.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Radical Man. I'm Dr. Grant Crewley, the Sensei of Applied Samurai Wisdom, and my co-host, Steve Toth, founder of Conscious Evolution Media and Real Coaching Radio and TV Network. And tonight we are proud to present Mr. Jerry Anderson, Dr. Anderson, as our special guest. And Jerry, hello, Steve, and hello, Jerry. Thank you both for being here tonight.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I can't think of any other place to spend my Thursday evening.
Well, thank you so much. So I'm excited to have Jerry on the show. I work at the clinic here that he founded and built, and then passed on to Dr. Brad Shapiro. And Dr. Anderson, in my opinion, I've been around a long time. He's a master of applied kinesiology, a very distinctive branch of chiropractic that's very advanced, and he's a phenomenal doctor. He's also a professional musician and singer, and he's a man with a very pronounced understanding of life. And I'm really happy to have you here, Jerry. And I want to start right off with a fairly powerful question. In today's world right now in America, we're in a very volatile environment. And in your opinion, if you reflect on men's roles today, and especially like those of us that either influence young boys and or were fathers, what do you see as critical for men in their attitude or in their position today regarding what's going on politically in this arena and in America?
Politically, culturally, socially.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
First, let me offer one slight correction. I've never really been able to give up my day job when it comes to the musical part. Oh, that would have been fun, but I've had to keep my day job in order to, stay solvent and so on. But to come to the really critical point there are probably several things that I could say, but probably the prime thing that people have to do, as you and I were talking a little bit before the show began, the idea that men ought to take pride in being men. there has been, I guess probably, to put it kindly, a tendency for part of our culture to be a little, shall we say, unappreciative of some of the sacrifices, some of the things that men do routinely. I remember hearing one talk show host many years ago talking about the equality issue, the man versus woman equality issue, particularly in terms of pay on average and so on. And I've always been of the belief that whoever does the work, and if they do it effectively and equally, well, they ought to benefit equally. But the talk show host raised a very good point. He was talking about how many more times likely it is for a man to die on the job. In other words, be killed in the process of trying to do his work. Mm-hmm. And it was a considerable factor. I can't remember, but it was stunning. Something like 20-something times more likely that a man would die during the performance of his job. And I'm not talking about police or fire or something that you would automatically consider hazardous professions. I'm just talking about ordinary work. Mm-hmm. Particularly, I'm sure, farming, construction, heavy equipment, this sort of thing. Sure, that probably tended to have a lot more of those kind of accidents. But it was kind of stunning to learn that, and also to realize that there's so many guys out there that are risking their lives, they're working really hard, putting a lot of heart, a lot of sweat, blood, tears, as the saying goes, into it. But yet they're not given quite the appreciation or the respect that they deserve. And so I believe it is probably time for men, I'm talking about fathers conveying to their sons, some elements of issues like that and say, hey, look, you can be very proud of yourself if you're a productive man doing good work, providing honest work, providing for your family, and doing the good things that men do. And whether you find yourself appreciated or not by our culture or the entertainment culture or whatever, understand that you are the heart and soul of this country, this culture. Mm-hmm. And that's not to take anything away from working women.
Dr. Jerry, hang on for a second. Let me just rebuttal that. And the purpose of it is not to minimize what you said, because I agree with everything you said. However, women put their lives on the line every time they have a birth.
Quite true.
And none of us would be here, you, Sensei Grant, or me, if it wasn't for women.
Thank you for an excellent point, and one which segues into the belief that women, yes, absolutely deserve a tremendous amount of appreciation as well. It needs to be a mutual thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, there has to be a mutual respect and mutual understanding and mutual love. And absolutely. I think what's missing right now is that, for so long, we as men were running the world and running our daily lives, and we had all the control and money and power. And now I'm experiencing, I don't know about you, but I'm experiencing that women are becoming into power, and they're not doing it much differently than the way we did it. They're copying us.
That's a great way that I used to put it. Women, you want to be equal to men? Don't be equally stupid,
Yeah. Don't learn from our mistake.
Yeah, for heaven's sakes, because we that's an excellent point. I like that one.
Yeah. So
but, anyway,
so really, I believe the purpose of the show is really just to pay some attention to men, because I feel personally that women are excellent masters at how to support each other, how to work with each other, how to embrace each other, and somehow men are not very good at it.
Well, I would like to bring something, and I want to get Jerry's thoughts on this. When I attended the men's group called the Young Warriors in Texas, I've studied for years the work of Robert Bly, and Robert Bly always brings up about the inner shame and the sense of grief and shame that we men carry, especially in our society since the Industrial Revolution. But I never really, it sounds intellectually interesting and so forth, but I couldn't really get my hands on it simply because men don't express it. My father didn't express it. Nobody expresses it because we're all tough and we sort of hold it into each other. And the reason I'm bringing this up is your point that we men don't easily support and help and gather together. So I go to this thing, and in this 3-day container, over a period of 3 days, I'm with these 60 different guys, ages from 20 to about 73. And by the 3rd day, everyone felt safe to start sharing their grief and the sadness and the shame that they carried. A lot of it carried over from their father, disconnect and life, and it was so overwhelming that I was absolutely stymied for weeks on end, because I wouldn't have dreamed it at all. These people were from all walks of life. So I wanted to ask Jerry's thoughts on that, because Jerry is one of the few men that I've ever met in my life who really does spend time going inside and really examining life instead of skirting along the surface. And that's why I'm so happy he's here. So what do you think about that, Jerry?
Well, let me ramble just a little bit, Steve and Grant. So why do men have to be better than women? Why do men have to, if you're playing tennis against your girlfriend, why do you have to win? Why do you have to be better? Why do you have to be smarter? Or why do you have to be physically stronger or more capable? And the answer, I believe, is because, I don't know, from caveman days or as recently as pioneer days, men were expected, because we've got undeniably more upper body strength, we were supposed to be the defenders. And therefore, our capabilities in that area were valued highly. And if we didn't have that ability, well, we weren't so good. We weren't so desirable as far as a partner or a leader of the family or whatever. And so when you feel like that you have to beat your girlfriend at tennis or you're totally ruined, you're shamed, then what you have to understand is what you're feeling is a fear of rejection. Your fear of not being loved because you weren't good enough. Mm-hmm. And our culture...
Yeah, but Dr. Jerry, hang on for a second. But I don't believe that that's something just belongs to men. I think women feel that too. So that's not like something that we own to ourselves as a gender.
No, but it is there is a qualitative, I think there's a primordial difference. It's not that women don't have that. I don't think Jerry's saying that, but there is a primordial and even a genetic. There's a qualitative difference. So it's not an either or, but there's a qualitative. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I would say there's absolutely a cultural bias when it comes to men in this situation, or at least there has been up until recently. Maybe things have changed a little bit, but now if you read some books from, gosh, I don't know, the Hardy Boys, for example, way back. Thinking Hardy, the two teenage detectives. If you read those books, it is absolutely strikingly clear that these guys had to be the dominant, the winner, the capable, or that somehow that they were not desirable characters. Mm-hmm. And so I think the worth of men has been defined in that way. more than women, although Steve is right. Women have got to feel that same pressure these days, at least to some extent. Mm-hmm. But I would say probably it's the balance has shifted culturally. The impact is more on men. But what do you think, Steve?
Well, it's not just what I think. I feel that this is all has to do with some kind of a balance that we have to create, and it can only be created out of agreeing between all of us that what there is to do now for human beings is to continue on our evolution, and this is part of our evolution. And just because it was that way in the past, we have to learn to let that go. The present and the future doesn't have to be the way it was.
Well, if I can offer something to that, I was telling you in the last two shows, if we look at Asian or any of the older cultures, which I've been a part 40 years, the interesting thing is because they gender roles are both mutually respected. I'm not speaking about Middle Eastern, although I have a pronounced education in Middle Eastern culture that I have not discussed. I'm speaking of Asia. So because those roles have not been disrupted and challenged, people carry on their lives and the family structure is intact. Our family structure, while people may want to say that we need to let all our stuff go, what I see is broken families, lost children, a lot of children growing up without parents. I don't see anything in any regard, shape, or form in America in any way superior, whatever. And I'm prepared to argue that ad nauseum, versus the other way, because you see.
Well, there's no argument from me, because what I'm going to tell you is that I don't think that structure works, and I don't think this structure works. There is another structure.
That structure does work. It's been working for over 2,500 years, Steve, and it
works for them. I'm not going to say that works for me. I lived in South Korea. I've been to China. That way of life doesn't work for me.
No, and it wouldn't, but in your country, when your grandfathers and great grandfathers were alive, and in America, before everything changed with the Industrial Revolution, it did work for them, and the families did grow up together, and they did sit down at the dinner table and eat together, and they did have etiquette, and all of the rest of it. I want to bring
that's in the past, Sensei.
Yeah.
There's nothing we can do about that. It's gone.
Maybe not. It's not gone while people like me are alive.
The fact that we're having this discussion.
I'm just challenging you, Sensei.
I knew he was challenging the minute I saw him. Steve, that we're even having this conversation is a really good indication, because it means an awareness of a problem, which is the first step toward solving the problem. There is a very good book from, I guess 30 years ago, The Hazards of Being Male, by a guy named Herb Goldberg. It's a good read. It makes some really important points, and it makes some positive things about men without being terribly denigrating toward women. It just, I think, probably is a good tool to help with the balanced perspective. But I would recommend taking a look at that to anybody that is interested. He has some good observations. But the fact is, our world is in such a shape. The way that, some of the problems that we face these days, man, I'm looking for good ideas. I don't care if it's coming from a man or woman or a 14-year-old or a 3-year-old. A good solution, that's what I'm about. I'm looking for solutions to our problems. If you've got a Margaret Thatcher out there who is capable of doing some of the fantastic things that she did, hey, let's clear the way, buddy.
Mm.
Yeah, and we can certainly talk about that, and I get much more excited about that than I'm getting excited about, you know, rediscussing or rehearsing the, you know, what has happened in the past. I mean, I have appreciation for the past, and it got us to where we are today as humanity. So whatever we did, and here we are.
Sort of
okay,
like
and now what?
Well,
sort of like we want to know what caused the engine to fail, you know. But once we've identified, well, we see it because it blew a piston, you know, or something like that. Once we know that, okay, then you move on. Then you look for solutions. Well, here's how we fix this. And here's how we keep it from happening again.
Mm-hmm. And just remember, Steve, when you say that, and it all sounds so nice and so smooth. In psychology, we know for a fact that the boys who do not, men here in America and anywhere in the world, who do not go through some type of initiation process where they feel that they have been acknowledged by older men to have made it into manhood, suffer greatly emotionally and psychologically. Somewhere it'll hit them somewhere between about 30 to 40, maybe 45 years old. And as I said earlier, I was witness to the enormous damage that it does. And 99.9% of all of it came from a lack of connection with their fathers, not their mothers. So whether we can all say nice and smooth, well, this is where we are. Bullshit. Where we are is nothing but a frickin' quagmire with a bunch of guys running around who don't know who they are and don't have the guts to actually take initiative and speak up. And right now, that's why I wanted to bring Jerry on. The political arena right now is ugly. You came from a communist country. You know what I'm talking about. And right now,
you're not going to find anything uglier than that.
That's right. And
so this is not about outdoing each other. I don't want to engage in that.
No. I leave women out. What I'm concerned with is we men, before America is completely lost entirely. That's what that's why I'm so excited with Jerry, because he's strong in understanding these kinds of things. Because the boys.
But Sensei, hang on for a second. So what I'm called to say is, it's never gonna be the way it was.
That's fine. I just want the boys.
It's not gonna be ever.
It's
going to be something different.
I don't care what it is. I want to reinstate though if put it this way, Steve, if you castrate the primordial energies that make a man and a woman a woman, it's like a genetically modified organism. It'll self-destruct because it's a mutation. So I want to tie in Jerry because you and I are getting at it. Let him speak.
Yeah, I wish you guys would let me talk for a minute.
Yeah, that's right.
Go for it.
A couple of quick things here that seem to have some sort of a bearing on this. Bishop Wright, I think I'm remembering this correctly. This is about two of my heroes, the Wright brothers. I think he was like 55 years old when those guys were born. Yeah, he was an older guy. But the nurturing that he gave those boys turned out two incredible individuals. They accomplished something. I mean, two bicycle mechanics from Dayton, Ohio, and they're the people who conquered heavier than air flight. Meanwhile, the Smithsonian Institution is receiving government funding, tremendous government funding, and the Wright brothers do it, and the Smithsonian, Dr. Langley did not. That's pretty neat. But I think that relates back to the point that Grant was trying to make, that men need their fathers. We need mom too, but men need their fathers. This, in our culture, our present-day culture, this is sort of lacking. But this is a great story I think you'll appreciate. I had a flying student back before I went to chiropractic school and became a doctor. I had a flying student who, gosh, I think she was 36 when I first met her. And she reminded me of one of my aunts. She was just very good old country girl. Seemed very unassuming, but at the same time, she climbed mountains, explored caves, two things I would not dare do. Horseback riding, just she was an adventurous person. And she was a mom, and she worked at a bakery in Memphis. She worked all night at the bakery. But anyway, it fell my duty to teach her to fly. And she had soloed once before I took her on as a student. And I immediately sensed that there was a problem. There was one thing that she was afraid of. She was afraid of a maneuver, the stall, because it makes the airplane shudder a little bit. It has nothing to do with the engine. It has to do with lift and the loss of lift from too high a hill to climb, so to speak, for the airplane. But anyway, she was so terrified of that, we had to take it in very small steps to get her past that fear. Well, we did. And we went out in a Great Lakes biplane one day, and we did, this was sort of a chance we were taking. She told me she was so afraid of this particular flight. We typically flew like in a Cessna 150, just common little airplane. But Great Lakes biplane was open cockpit. We had on parachutes, double seat belts, and all the equipment, in other words. We went out and did a loop, a roll, and a hammerhead turn. And as I had accurately assessed, she went wild. She loved it. She wasn't scared. She didn't want to come back. It was, do it again, roll it again. I love it. Anyway, she was so ecstatic that she, just made that quantum leap beyond the fear that she had in the rig of a training airplane. That got her past the problem. She was able to go ahead, complete her training. With one slight exception, she came to me one day and said, and this is the really important point. She said, I think I'm going to have to quit flying, Jerry. And I said, well, why? She said, well, I work all night at the bakery, and I just don't make enough money to fly as often as I need to, as often as I'd like to. And I said, have you ever thought about, why don't you buy an old airplane and rebuild it, fix it up? That's what I did. And she said, you're kidding. You think I could do that? And I said, look, if I could do it, anybody can do it. I didn't know how to use a screwdriver properly till I was 19 years old. Well, anyway, to come to the point, I convinced her that she should go across the parking lot to the Memphis Aviation Vocational Technical School and consider enrolling in their training program. She really surprised me. She did. She became as we say, an A&P, airframe and power plant mechanic, and now works for Federal Express. An incredible success story. But she told me, she said, you are the only person in my entire life that ever encouraged me. She said, I have wanted to be a mechanic since I was 8 years old. And the poor kid, she got nothing but discouragement. The discouragement fraternity of men who, oh, you can't do this. That's this man's world. Well, she did. And not only that, it made her life, well, infinitely richer in terms of, she told me that going to work every day, it was like Christmas every day. She just loved it. What a thrill, to think that if nobody else in my entire life took my advice, at least she did, and I'm so happy that it worked out well for her. But we, I believe, are in a position where we need to empower each other. Independent of whether you're male or female, let's empower each other so that the meaningful part of life can be as good as it can. And so anyway, now I've had my yakety yak for several minutes.
In that exact strain, I'm not going to let you off the hook. So right now, the average boy in America sees his father 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes. And the only thing they're seeing on television in a theta brainwave pattern is girls, the boys in the movies and shows cannot make a decision without the girl telling them what to do. The little tiny girls beat the hell out of them, manhandle them. Actually, they couldn't bend a man's wrist. You bring any black belt. I trained thousands. I'm not. I'll be happy to demonstrate.
Surely you're not telling me that TV is unrealistic.
Yeah, but the little boys, they're being programmed to not trust themselves, not believe in their own initiative. The school system themselves. My God, Brad Shapiro's boy is in kindergartens. No, he's pre-kindergarten, Steve. And because I don't know what he did. I think he picked up a stone or something, and they already contacted Melissa and Brad, worried that the kid has some kind of violent tendencies. Hell, I used to, if they had ever seen me and my buddies when we were in school, they'd have put us in prison in maximum security for all. I mean, that's just so when you say inspire, what I'm very concerned with is something that's inspiring the boys and the men. When you look at the present leader of our country, the epitome of weakness, liar from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, a pompous ass that stands with his chin up in the air, and then the boys see this stuff, and then they don't even.
Sounds like a lot of judgments, Sensei.
Well, it's also a lot of fact, though, pal.
Does that really work? You think?
Opinionated like this. I'm so shocked.
Yeah.
So am I. Somebody that's an expert at the samurai wisdom.
Yeah.
And talks like this.
Always understand, Steve, that in the samurai society, somebody like Obama, if you ever want to look at samurai society or discuss that and the leadership, I will be more than happy to discuss how that kind of thing doesn't happen. But it is happening right here, right now. And there are a lot of things that boys and men need to be able to understand or do, or they're going to lose all their liberty, Steve, and you're going to be right back in a communist country.
Steve, let me say just one thing in Grant's defense. I believe he has a very strong sense of fairness, and some of the things that we see happening are decidedly unfair.
Yeah, but he's still angry. He needs to he needs to manage that anger.
What I say, what you got to do is redirect that energy and turn it into useful energy. Turn it positive.
Yes. I really loved your story, Dr. Jerry, by the way, and I even loved the stuff that you said before about the Wright brothers. And I'd like to suggest that right now we are the Wright brothers, and these are the challenges that we have.
Yes.
What Sensei is describing, and somehow, I don't know how, I don't have to know how, but we have to come up with the solutions.
Well, do you think the solution, do you believe in solutions that sometimes require some manly action? Or do you want to just everybody sit down, have a nice cup of tea, and talk like a couple of old women sitting over a cup of because if they take away, for instance, if they disarm everybody, Steve, that's how Hitler took over everything. He says, once everybody is disarmed. I was talking to a professional enlisted military man just the other day who explained to me that our fearless leader, the ass, has taken away all of our soldiers in Afghanistan are no longer allowed a hot breakfast. All of the soldiers here, unless they are in a direct deployment, are no longer issued ammunition, Steve, and our entire country is inundated with sleeper cells. So yes, we need to be the Wright brothers, but it requires some manly guts. In samurai society, when there's a problem, it doesn't mean you take your sword out and start cutting, but you do take a part of the sword out a little bit and you let it shine in the air and in the sunlight, and it shows that you have, like Robert Bly says, you have to have an inner warrior. Men today do not, their inner warrior is being killed by the society, the education, and the media. What do you want to say to that, Jeff?
Well, you know, it makes me worry about the state of my inner warrior. You know, I'm not sure how much of a warrior I would be. However, I did talk to a real warrior once, God rest him, my friend Chuck, who I worked for and who taught me aerobatic flying many years ago. I had an incident with a midget Mustang. It's a little experimental airplane. Lost part of the propeller, and for the first 30 seconds, to say it was a shaking experience, oh boy. You know, usually those events are fatal because the engine departs the airframe, and so the airplane is out of balance, comes tumbling down. The first 30 seconds that it happened, I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't tell. All I could understand was a terrific vibration, and I knew I had to slow the airplane down, and I did, and I managed to get it down safely. But that's another story for another time, I guess. The point is, I talked to my friend Chuck about it, who was, I believe Chuck was an ace. He definitely saw a considerable amount of combat, having flown P-40s, P-51 Mustang, P-38 Lightning, and his favorite, though, I think, was the Wildcat. I asked him, I said, Chuck, I got to admit, I was really scared. I said, the first 30 seconds after the thing started, I thought it was over. But I'm proud to say that I kept on flying the airplane and, got it down safely. But I just wondered, you flew combat, so much combat. How did you manage the fear? I mean, how did you, day after day, how did you cope with it? And he said, well, Jerry, we had two things. He said, one was the belief that our mission was much more important than just ourselves, than any one of us. Number two, we had tremendous confidence in our equipment. We had a lot of good people building very good equipment. He said, I came back with over 100 holes in that Wildcat one day. And he said, it still got me home. What an incredible airplane. And so I guess that's it. Let me segue into this thought too. The idea that you have the backing, the intense backing of the people at home, I think probably helps people arise to the occasion, to the warrior, to the warrior class.
If you're respected, do you want to know something, Steve? And for all of you viewers out there, now that I'm a doctor and I'm working with people, I just got approached at an event this week. Nice person comes up, Jerry right here, he helps support and handle a situation, I believe it's called the Wounded Warriors.
Oh yeah, we're doing a fundraiser. It's a big dinner dance. We're trying to make it a big thing and hopefully raise some serious money for a very worthy charity. It's just simply to provide a little better infrastructure for men and women that are coming home from combat, some of them grievously wounded, permanent injuries.
Yeah, that's funny. We just had somebody on the network yesterday who did the same thing. His name is Rudy De La Valle. Do you know him?
I've heard the name. I'm not sure if
he's doing the same thing. He's a retired Army guy.
Excellent.
So here's the thing. Okay, so hang on for a second. So I get your wisdom, both of yours, and I respect it. But here's the thing. That wisdom of yours has to be translated so it can be understood by the youngsters today.
Yeah, and the way
that's the challenge.
Yes, and so Brad, we're just discussing, and this is what I'd like to offer to the men out there. Brad and I got approached to do a group even once a month with young boys and or teenagers to help them spend time with them in identifying and doing things that get them toward rights of manhood and connecting themselves with the blessing of older males. Now, feature this, Steve. This man comes up to me and he says to me in all honesty, he says, do you know that the young boys here, they don't even know, they're not even being taught or even know anything about World War II. Nothing. Well, guess what? All those men, it wasn't a bunch of women, gentlemen. Nope. There wasn't a whole slew of broads running across the fields fighting World War II or World War I. But here's the interesting thing. All those poor guys that died and all those men that fought, whether you like war or you don't like war, if I don't give it, I'll tell you something, Hitler would have taken us right over. The Japanese would have annihilated us. The Chinese would annihilate you. And when you're facing those kind of enemies, they are children and the boys, they need to understand the guts, the courage, the wherewithal, and the incredible sense of mission it took to take on and handle everything so they can run around with their little lollipop in their mouth and all of their philosophical nonsense and judge everything and say, oh, there's a bunch of cowards and fools. What we need to do is instill pride.
There's that anger again.
Anger. Because it's a travesty, Steve. And if nobody feels this, if it just stays on an intellectual level, if it never gets emotional, it'll just stay same old, same old. The people that have the big money will run the media. Our boys will. Do you know that right now I uncovered the whole what do you call the research of how we white males, including Europe, our sperm count now is down to something like only 7% viable. It's going extinct, and it's going extinct by design. We need some emotion here. We need some guts. Men don't move mountains by just sitting down and drinking a cup of coffee. They move mountains because they get something going on inside themselves. What do you think to that, Jed?
Well, I think that we definitely need a better testosterone level than we've got currently. Yeah. But we don't want our testosterone ruling our brain, so we've got to put some good intellectual thought behind it and make our energy in the right direction, focused properly.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, too, one of your thoughts about World War II. I learned something about a dear family friend, Martha Hemlin. We lost her, I guess it's, oh good grief, I guess it's been 2 years ago. But I found out that she was Rosie the Riveter. She had worked at a factory during World War II. Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy that I went to visit her at the nursing home, the assisted living facility where she was staying. And I got to tell her, Miss Martha, I just want you to understand something. I thought you were one of the most beautiful women I ever saw in my life. And I was just, just a teenage little boy, But I always thought you were so incredibly beautiful. And it wasn't just the physical. It was the spirit. She was really something else. It would really, it strikes me, be so much better if more women would emulate her. For that matter, that kind of character trait, men can emulate it too. Just the excellent contribution that she made. I think probably the other point about the entertainment. Yeah, we got a situation where the writer and former CBS reporter Bernard Goldberg put it very well. He said, the United States of America ceased to exist about 25 years ago. It was replaced by the United States of Entertainment. Mm-hmm. And so I've come up with a little soundbite for that. He who controls American entertainment controls America.
They do.
At least to a large extent, because of the incredible influence it has on us. And we need to have a lot of programs like this where we tap into the intellectual side, and understand what's going on. I think that will probably make us safer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem getting emotional at all. And I agree with you, Dr. Jerry. You're not going to find a program like this on commercial television. You know why?
No commercials.
No, because it won't make any money.
That's right.
The only thing that's on commercial television right now, and it's tested over and over and over, are the stuff that makes money. And how do they know that it makes money? How many people tune in, right? And how many Fortune 500 companies will buy commercials for that program.
Steve,
that's how this is decided.
Hurts me to hear
you know
that.
Lilly, who is one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the industry, is not going to give us $1 million to be on our show. You know why?
Why?
Because we don't have 60 million viewers. That's why.
Oh, okay, our market is not big enough to entice them.
Correct. And even if it was big enough, I wouldn't have nothing to do with them.
I'd quit if we had pharmaceutical.
Well, I'll tell you what.
So we have a real dilemma here.
Seems despair, because I was hoping this was the start of my TV career. I mean, I just didn't know. But,
well, it could be, but the only way it's gonna be if you don't quit. Like you didn't quit singing and you didn't quit, playing the instrument. That's the only way it's gonna happen.
Steve, the thing that really is great about, I guess, those elements of my life that I've come to really love and appreciate is the fact when you do it just for fun, you do it because you love it. That's the first thing. I hope
that's why I'm doing this. I like to give Sensei a hard time once in a while. Who else is going to do it?
I think he benefits from that.
Who else has guts enough to stand up to him?
The guy that was my flight instructor was like a surrogate father to me. My dad was a great guy, and he had some great characteristics, but unfortunately, he was of the school of thought of the successful businessman, and so he just didn't spend enough time with the boys, or my sister for that matter, in the way that Grant has been talking about, the need for that. But the duty, I guess, it just somehow fell to the old guy that was teaching me to fly. I think probably it was in part due to the fact that he didn't have a terribly happy home life, so he tried to sublimate his frustrations into just spending time with kids that otherwise might have become juvenile delinquents, as they used to call them. But he saved a lot of kids, redirected their attitudes. Flying at that time was incredibly important to a lot of people, particularly just coming out of World War II. Being able to fly an airplane was something pretty special. And so my obsession with airplanes from infancy, I guess, translated into my efforts to learn to fly and spending a lot of time with Mr. Bowen. And you talk about a brilliant man. Some of the ideas that he had remind me of Leonardo da Vinci. Some of the ideas he had in terms of different concepts of flight. Some of the things, I'm telling you, that we could do a whole program about some of those times, things that he discovered just as an amateur experimenter. That one day I saw an article in Time magazine, I believe it was, where the engineers were patting themselves on the back about their discovery of the hypercritical wing. He had told me about this 5 years earlier, talking about how he had discovered that a wing cambered on the bottom was actually more efficient at speeds just shy of Mach 1 than the Bernoulli's theorem, idea of the curve, the cambered surface on top, and just many things like that. But I guess the point, though, was the fact that he spent a lot of time talking to a lot of kids, and not just teaching them flying, but some serious lessons in life. And I'm forever grateful to him for that. And as I know, a legion of young men are. But I thought that probably was worth mentioning as well.
Mentorship. If there's any message that the Radical Man ever imparts to anybody, is we men are made by men, and then men and women both. We need teachers. The Radical Man is a show that Steve and I decided to do that is specific to men, because men are almost utterly bereft of any thought whatsoever. Even in this show, when we try to talk, the conversation, if you notice, constantly goes to ladies instead of being able to even stay on men, because there's just so little thought ever given, including ourselves, about ourselves.
I have a question for Steve, though.
Oh.
Steve, I've got to ask you this. I don't understand why the name of this show is The Radical Man when Grant is so mild-mannered.
Yeah. Well, that's really simple. It was designed to be interruptive. So when people hear The Radical Man, they just go, what the hell are you talking about? I don't know what that means, but I'm willing to check it out.
Yeah.
Because I don't see any radical men anywhere.
A little. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because what the premise of that, folks, is that if it's interruptive, by what Steve means is it'll get your attention, and many times the way human consciousness is, that it's asleep, so you need something to interrupt. Now, I'm always forgetting to do this because Steve's always trying to help me. I run Applied Samurai Wisdom. Now, Applied Samurai Wisdom, if you're listening to me, as you may gather, a samurai life is Zen, but it is not. The understanding in America of Zen is something passive, and you just sit in a chair and you smile and everybody just drinks tea. These things have nothing to do with life, with dying, of the great passage that we're all going to go through, whether we like it or not. It's the one test you're never going to fail. We'll all die perfectly. However, how we die may or may not be so good. The concepts of guts and the ability to take on life and how to change and master your life. That's why I built Applied Samurai Wisdom. It's a marriage of two things: 2,500 years of Asian behavioral science with the cutting edge science from quantum physics, epigenetics, and the new nutrition and so forth.
Steve, I just wish he would quit putting down the tea drinkers. I like my tea.
Oh, I like tea too.
Yes. And not only that, but the health benefits of green tea and white tea, we need to do a whole program to explore them. So
yeah, and I'm all for that. But if you have time, I would love to have you call me and set up or email me, set up a free consultation with me and see if you would like to try Applied Samurai Wisdom. That is not just for men, that's men and women. It's for boys or girls. It's about life, period. This show, on the other hand, is designed for helping men. I have a strong feeling for that. I will never apologize for that to anyone under any circumstances, period. I know these things on a very deep level, and come hell or high water, I'm going to impart it one way or the other. I loved having you on the show, Jerry and Steve. I like your questions, and I know you like to ruffle my feathers. But I'll tell you something. If at this critical time in American history, if the men in that don't rise up, and I'm very glad to see they shot down Obama and his pissmires with the guns, that's good. Stay awake and aware. Don't ever give up your freedom. Don't ever give up the Second Amendment. Do not become puppets. Never do that. Once you're behind a power curve, if you're military or if you understand fighting, once you're behind a power curve, you're done. You will not come out of it. You have to stay up front of a power curve. And then in Applied Samurai Wisdom, I can help you do that. So with that, Steve, do you have any closing comments, sir?
Oh, do I ever? So I've been patiently controlling myself. So here's where I'm coming from. So the fact that I ruffle your feathers, that's just for fun and entertainment. What I believe that we do for each other and for our guests is that we create an environment where people will not just share their stories and share, although those are important, and share their opinions, but also everybody remains to be open that there are many different ways to look at the world. There are many different ways to be in the present moment and to move forward into the future. And I believe, and yes, I listened to your pitch, and your pitch is great for people to sign up, but I also believe, and that's a necessary thing that we have to do, but I also believe that the way we show up in this show, like who we are being as a human being, and who we touch, move, and inspire out there that are listening and watching, is what's going to make them pick up the phone and call you, not the pitch.
Well,
make sense?
I don't know how to pitch anything. I am who I
am. Yes, you do.
I teach from my heart.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm a lineage sensei, and I'm a doctor, and I'm a man. And I'm not the Buddha, and never pretended to be a day in my life. I'll teach you what I know from over 40 years of training now, and I am utterly sincere. If you go ahead and call me, and if I can help you, or if we resonate, fine. If we don't, try to find somebody that you do resonate with. If you want to advance yourself, you'll never do it on your own. I've studied my entire life. I answer to my senseis, and I have a plethora of people that I look to for guidance. So if my pitch, or whatever a pitch is, to help it, I wouldn't know a pitch from a frickin' business world, folks. I'm a pathway man. I lived like a monk over 11 years. I renounced the world during that time. I am who I am. But I will give you everything I know from my heart. The kind of men that I invite, like Jerry, I invite him because I respect him. If I don't respect him, I'll never have him on my show, period. And the reason I'm with Steve is because I respect Steve. Otherwise, I wouldn't give a damn, and I wouldn't be here. So as far as I only know how to be who I am. And when it comes to some of these subjects, I do get emotional because it's a travesty and stuff is happening at an enormously fast rate. The consequences are dire. And if people don't wake up, my God, Bruce Lipton and all of the greatest scientists, Greg Braden in the world, are going all over the world explaining that we are in the sixth extinction. Extinction means all life ends. It's the sixth extinction. We need to take, this isn't a joke. These issues are big. And
so Sensei, our challenge is no different than creating this plane that Dr. Jerry has been talking about, creating an airplane and getting it to lift off. Our challenge is no different. We need to figure out how do we get 60 million people to tune into this message, because that is the only way things are going to change.
Well, if you can tell me how to do it, I mean, I have all these.
Well, we're doing it, but it's not going to happen, overnight. The plane wasn't created overnight, and certainly didn't figure it out overnight how to get it to take off, right, Dr. Jerry?
Absolutely. I believe
it took a lot of failures before we succeeded.
Let me tell you, Stephen, this is really important. The Wright brothers, according to their biographer, Fred Kelly, I got to admit, I don't mean to sound or be hypocritical when I say this, because this is a virtue that I must admit that in my building my airplane and in the rebuilds that I've done, I did not have. But here's the virtue that the Wright brothers had. Whenever they encountered a problem, no matter how frustrating, no matter how bitter the failure, they never got mad. They never cursed.
You hear that, Sensei? Take that in.
Their incredible virtue was, they said, I wonder why this happened. How do we fix this? That was their instinct. In other words, they didn't look back at their failure and cry and go home, defeated. They started, what went wrong? How do we fix this?
Yeah. What can be put in that was missing?
Got to really
exactly.
Agree about the nature of solving the problem. Yeah, it is like conquering heavier than air flight. We got to put the effort into it, the thought, and but if I could be more like the Wright brothers and not be as emotional, I got to admit, I had some frustrating times. I built an RV-4. It was a great little airplane, but it was built at night and on weekends, and with a lot of lonely hours, except for Mickey the cat, who came to help. He supervised, but anyway, the virtue of the Wrights was the fact that, man, they zeroed in on the solution. And I think that to people that are tuning in, this is something that they must do, and that I'm about to say, and that is look for the person or the people, the persons with whom they resonate, so that they can avail themselves of the knowledge and the wisdom. There's a lot of pain out there. If we can ease that pain by sharing some of our experiences and talking about directions that we feel are better, even if the person disagrees, if it heightens their thought process, then maybe that will guide them into a better situation and help make the world better, if not save the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right on. And I also want to say that, Dr. Jerry, when the Wright brothers were talking about flying and creating this airplane and it's going to take off, people thought they were crazy. People think we are crazy right now, because what we're doing is not the popular thing to do, and it's okay.
Steve, you probably know this, but let me remind our viewers and our listeners this. The Wright brothers did not perform their first public demonstration flight in America. It was performed in France. You know why? Because they couldn't get anybody to believe them. They wrote, I said, look, we are going to do an official demonstration of the aircraft. We're going to show this. Would you? The newspaper reporter, the editor of the newspaper, this was so funny. One, he says, I'm going to send my most trusted reporter out to see this idiocy and see what these fools are really up to. Well, the reporter comes back. They did it. They really did it. And the editor said, well, you lying so-and-so, you're fired. Couldn't believe it. Everybody knew that human heavier than air flight was impossible. They, quote, knew it was impossible. They could not fathom it. So anyway, when the Wrights went to France to do this demonstration, it wasn't because the people were there to cheer them on and say, oh, you wonderful Americans, we're here to pat you on the back for your incredible accomplishment. No, they were there to laugh at them. They thought, we're going to see these two American idiots make complete fools of themselves. They were given a challenge. There was a guy who had come up with a device that would hop, just hop off the ground for a second. That was their version of flying. And so the French presented the Wright brothers with this incredible, impossible, quote, impossible challenge. They said, we're going to run a tethered balloon up to 100 feet. If you are so great, you can fly, let's see you equal this altitude. And then they sat back smug, thinking, this is going to happen. The Wrights agreed, Wilbur and Orville agreed among themselves that, we could go much, much higher. Let's only go to 100 feet. We don't want to hurt their feelings any more than we have to. So when they did the demonstration flight, they only flew up to 100 feet. When they did, when the airplane came off the ground and started to ascend, the people went into pandemonium. They were screaming.
Yes.
They were running. In fact, this is what inspired me to write a poem that I sent to Paul Harvey when I was, 17 years old, that he quoted multiple times in multiple venues, and I was very proud of that. But the Wright brothers were an inspiration to me and still are, a lot of other people.
Yeah, and Dr. Jerry, I feel the same way that, just in closing, because we are out of time, is that I feel that consciousness is really the only way out of Dodge. And if we don't learn as human beings and don't go through evolution how to be conscious and how to be awake, we're going to continue to be robots, and we're going to continue to be controlled by the media, and we're going to continue to be sheep. So the only way that I know out of this is being in this conversation of how do we provide value and how do we serve people by teaching people how to be in the present moment and how to be conscious and how to make choices that are supporting who we really are, the magnificent human beings that we are, versus doing the things that we're doing by not being conscious. What we're witnessing out there in the world, I believe, is what human being is capable of when we are acting and choosing from our egos. From there, anything is possible.
Having me on the program.
So that's what Applied Samurai Wisdom is, Steve. Applied Samurai Wisdom is a methodology that has made conscious people for over 2,500 years. And being conscious does not negate having passion and having an emotional charge. Being awake and aware does not mean being some kind of a passive, dead individual. So if you would like to try, you just call me, set up an appointment. It's a free consultation, and you see if you resonate with me. If my energy touches you in this show at all, try. I won't bite you, and I would love.
Hey, so, sirens! I don't know if you heard the sirens a minute ago.
I heard.
Across the hospital. I thought they were for a minute.
Yeah. So, gentlemen, thank you. I know we're out of time.
Thank you so much.
I
enjoyed it. It went like 5 minutes. Yeah.
Come see us in Tennessee sometime.
You used to live in Tennessee.
You're kidding.
I lived in Jackson.
Jackson, yeah. I did too.
Really? I worked in Milan, Tennessee for ITT.
You're kidding. You were 20 miles from my hometown. Incredible.
We probably walked beside each other and didn't know it.
What time frame are we talking?
Oh my God. Now you're going to put me to the test. Let me think. Probably
70s, 80s?
1977, 78, 79.
Oh my gosh. We were there at about the same period of time, off and on at least.
Jackson only had like maybe 60,000 people, and they had a McDonald's and a Wendy's. And that's it.
I used to work for a radio station there when I was just a young guy.
Oh, I was in radio. I did radio for 3 years. Yeah.
Here in Jackson?
No, here in Denver for KHOW.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll compare notes on that again sometime if we get the chance. But thank you for the time tonight and the opportunity to share some thoughts with you. Fun.
I really enjoyed you guys. Thank you so much. And for everybody else out there, we love you all. Do you want to close it out, Sensei?
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Steve. And folks, stay awake and aware. And men, you be proud of yourself. And do not try to, very hard, don't support anything that humiliates or belittles men or humiliates the boys. Be proud to be a man, and always look deeper. What is it that makes you a man? Be proud of that, because it is special. The ladies, they're already doing that. We need to do that. We've lost that. Okay? So good luck.
Thank you.
Sharp.
See you guys next week.
Yes,
good
sir.
night, everybody.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Today's podcast is brought to you by ObesityHotline.com, the silent killer, providing support and encouragement in the prevention of this rising epidemic. Featuring the Body by Vi Challenge. Is there a quick answer to the question? Go to www.ObesityHotline.com. You're watching and listening to Conscious Evolution Media, shifting global consciousness at ConsciousEvolutionMedia.com.